1. Okay, so I, 26, female, have been living in a small 2-bed, 1.5 bathroom apartment with a connected kitchen and living room space. I found this new roomie about 5 months ago, 25 female non-binary through mutual friends. Turns out they're an alcoholic, have borderline personality disorder and bipolar disorder. They tell me their parents are narcissists, and I can believe it because they act like one. I had been living here a full year before they moved in, and brought all these particular rules and expectations they don't even live up to themselves. For example, our first disagreement happened when they asked me how I clean the cat's litter. I have 1 cat, and they brought 2 cats and a guinea pig. I was cleaning it every other day or every 2 days. Depending on how dirty it looked, that's just how I've always done it. They proceed to insult me, saying that maybe they just care more about their pets, and maybe they're cleaner than me. But that we need to clean our 4 litter boxes 3 times daily. Hell no. Or they're going to start charging me $150 on top of rent as a cleaning fee too. I thought they moved in with you? To avoid resentment. They also attempted to throw away the litter I had because they didn't like the brand. And we decommissioned my soap and sponge for dishes that I had already bought because they don't like those either. Most recently, I had came home to them fuming because they had left trash bags by the door to be taken out to the dumpster that I didn't take out for them. The dumpster is literally 10 feet from our front door. They do this multiple times a week, and I'd say 80% of the time I'll take it. Stop doing that right now. This time, I was running late to a date, so I didn't. They laid into me about how I must be okay with leaving trash to get hot and stinky in the sun in our apartment. But they're not, and how all their friends think I'm inconsiderate and selfish, probably because their friends are getting a very one-sided version of the tale. I just want to ask you, what's going through your mind when you walk past the trash by the door and don't take it out? After contemplating my doom, I said, "You probably aren't going to like my answer, but that is not my responsibility. I take the trash out and clean the litter too, and when I do, I just walk it all the way out, and I usually take yours too as a favor. But I never knew you expected that of me because you never communicated that. Also asked them if going forward we could have these roommate check-ins in a sober frame of mind, because each time I have been sober, but they have been taking bong rips mid-berate, or they've been drunk out of their mind, and they won't remember what we talked about. They go in circles insulting without looking for a solution, and they're extremely rude-toned with me. They blew up at me for this, saying they felt judged, and that smoking is their supplement to their medication prescribed by their psychiatrist, so I should understand that they need to be high 24/7. They say that they actually made so much progress because they used to get into fistfights and be more verbally aggressive before. Well, that sounds like a threat. So, here's my rant. I'm considering breaking the lease to leave sooner. Yep, do that. That one there, do that. It is up in 5 more months, but I'm not sure I can take it, and so far, they have not been able to compromise on anything. I spend a lot of my time at work or out with friends when I can, but otherwise I hide in my room and complete chores and cooking when they're not here. I used to hang out in the living room more, but they too often come home in a huff from a fight with a coworker, boss, ex-boyfriend, parent, road rage, which they would take out on me that I choose to remove myself from the possibility of finding myself in their line of fire. I've tried to communicate to them that I get triggered by slamming doors and passive aggression, and that maybe they could just shoot me a text when they're coming home saying, "I had a bad day, I need to be alone." But they got so upset about that, saying they just have BPB, and that they're going to spiral. 2. Hey everyone, I've been sitting with this for a while and could really use some outside opinions. Things in my living situation have gotten super tense, and I feel like I'm being iced out for trying to have an honest conversation. The worst part? I want to take over the lease in a few months, but the current leaseholder refuses to speak to me. Here's the breakdown. I'm 25 and female and live in a 3-bedroom house with 2 other women. Roommate 1, 25 female, the leaseholder, and roommate 2, 21 and female. I was the last to move in, about a month later than the others. At first, I was actually getting to be pretty close with roommate 1. She came off as very easygoing and seemed to click well. Meanwhile, she didn't really click with roommate 2 at first before I moved in and started blaming her for a lot of the housing issues, calling her lazy, messy, etc. Over time, though, I started to feel differently. One major issue was the cat situation. Roommate 2 had 2 cats, and roommate 1 has 1. The cats didn't get along, so one of roommate 2's cats was confined to her room, and the other one was kept only on the first floor. Meanwhile, roommate's 1 cat was allowed to roam the entire house freely, including shared spaces. This caused major fights between the cats, which got so bad that roommate number 2 had to send her downstairs cat back to her parents' house for its own safety. Roommate 1 refused to make any compromises or restrict her cat's access, even though it was clearly contributing to the issue. What made this worse is that roommate 1 already has the entire 3rd floor to herself, a bedroom, bathroom, and private office and closet area. She has the most space and privacy in the house, yet still acted entitled to all the common areas too. On top of that, the litter box for the downstairs cat was left filthy and reeked. I tried to wait them out to avoid cleaning it, but it had been 2 weeks and the cat started going on the floor, and roommate number 1 would constantly blame roommate 2 for it, while doing nothing to help. Eventually, I got to know roommate 2 better and found out she had been going through a bout of depression. Still, she was coming home from overnight shifts and cleaning the kitchen every morning, something roommate 1 was taking credit for. That's when I realized roommate 1 had been misrepresenting her and trying to manipulate the household dynamic. Things kept piling up. Roommate 1 decorated the entire shared living room without asking or informing us, and it looked incredibly tacky and cluttered. To boot, she would always veto our suggestions for things to put in the shared spaces and wanted everything ran past her. She also bought a real Christmas tree without running it by, even though I'm highly allergic and, of course, I ended up being the one who had to clean up after it. On top of doing the majority of the cleaning in general, she also constantly tried to force a certain vibe in the house, like insisting we throw parties for every holiday, even when I clearly wasn't into it. I would be polite and help out where I could, but I didn't want to invite friends. Most of mine are busy and live far. She got upset that I wasn't actively hyping things up or bringing people, and made me feel bad for just existing more quietly in the space. Around the holidays, I found out I could work remotely, so I went to stay at my family's cabin for a few weeks. That turned eventually into a few months to get away from it. I was still paying the rent and bills on time, and all the like, and kept in touch. While I was gone, I found out roommate 1 never actually set up our utility accounts, even though I was asking about it months earlier. She then Venmo requested us for utilities, including a split late fee of $200 for her own mistake. After all of this, and some encouragement from friends, I finally sent roommate 1 a calm and respectful text. I said I didn't feel like I truly lived there. It felt more like I was a guest in her home, and that I was considering putting my things in storage and looking for a 1-bedroom if nothing changed. I wasn't trying to start a fight, I just wanted to open the door to a real conversation. She never responded. Now, my money got funny, and I'm back at the house, and things are worse than ever. She won't speak to me at all, full-on cold shoulder. On top of that, I found out she removed my access to our Ring security camera on the front porch. I've had packages stolen, so I really relied on that. I texted her asking for access again and offered to meet for coffee and talk. I even said I'd apologize. Don't do that, for crying out loud. Just to clear the air and move forward peacefully, still nothing. Here's the kicker. Both roommates are moving out in August, and I want to take over the lease. But roommate 1 is the only one on the lease, and she is refusing to communicate. I don't want drama. I just want to handle this like an adult. But she's completely shut me out and is making everything as uncomfortable as possible. Has anyone dealt with something like this? What would you do? Hellfreezer's note. Firstly, please don't apologize to her. You're only going to justify her feelings of superiority, so let's nip that in the bud. Be polite, but be firm if you do speak to her. Secondly, you need to go over her head. You can't be relying on her to relay things to the landlord. So talk to the landlord yourself that say that you want to take over the lease. If you have the means to do so, then it shouldn't be a problem. You are 100% right when you say you are a guest living in her house. That's how she looks at you and your other roommate. It's her space and you two are just an unfortunate happenstance that she needs to help pay the bills. So take the lead, talk to the landlord. 3. I, 25 and female, have a roommate, 21 and female. We've been living together in my coach house, which I own but rent out the other room to save on bills, for about 4 months. Until yesterday, I was really happy with her. She's considerate, clean, and although she can get moody and not be the most pleasant, we're able to give each other enough space that I haven't been finding it to be an issue. About 3 days ago, we had our monthly roommate meeting, where we grab a drink of coffee and just check in. Sometimes we don't have anything to chat about and we just hang out and drink. Sometimes we bring up minor things that each other can improve. For example, this month I asked her to clean out her cat's litter box more, and she asked me to contribute cleaning the bathroom more. And she also mentioned how she'd like to bring in some of her own furniture and decorations. Great, I thought. I'm happy to take some stuff down or move it around, so she can feel like it's her space too. And I understand where she's coming from, since I've been there for 4 years, and since I've had one other roommate before her, then lived alone, I ended up just furnishing and decorating the whole place, so I definitely want her to feel at home in our space. I thought the conversation went nicely as usual, and we did mature problem solving. Then I chatted with our mutual friend who introduced us. Yesterday she informed me that behind my back, my roommate has been calling me a snobby, condescending, stuck-up bitch. And complaining all the time since the very beginning. Normally, I take this sort of talk with a grain of salt, but my friend was telling me out of genuine concern for me, as she didn't think it was fair of my roommate to be speaking this way without giving me a chance to fix issues. I was shocked, hurt, and bamboozled, as someone who's been trying very hard to be accommodating and kind. I couldn't believe she would be saying that to our mutual friends, while also not informing me of her issues forthright. To make matters worse, she's been telling friends untrue stories about how me and my boyfriend take over the place all the time and kick her out so we can have the place to ourselves. This is absolutely false. Since my boyfriend has a place of his own, I always go there. The only times he comes over is to help me with maintenance, fix things, and very occasionally watch a movie. We're conscious of how small the space is, so we're trying to be accommodating. But even so, if she has a problem with it, she should have come to me directly, right? Also, she talks about how my decorating style is ugly and hideous. But like, come on girl, you saw the place before you moved in. I feel like you knew what you were getting into. I tried speaking with her yesterday without giving away that I know what she's been telling our friends. I asked her if she's happy and if she has anything she wants me to do or change, but she just told me how much she loves it and is grateful to be living here. I honestly want to give her notice and then the boot, but part of me is hoping we can just move past it and continue as we were before, since it's been pretty good up until this point. I just feel at 25, I don't want to deal with two-faced roommates. Hellfreezer's note, how do you know what she said was true and that your other friend isn't the two-faced one? I mean, you only have the word of one person here. I don't know your friend, so maybe there's someone you can trust implicitly. But putting a pin in that for a moment, let's assume that what you were told is true. You can't just kick her out. I'm assuming you have some sort of lease, so you'll have to see what was in whatever lease it was that you had her sign. The most civil thing to do here would be perhaps just to write out the end of the lease term and not renew with her, and then she can just move out, and you can either have the place to yourself again or find someone who's perhaps a little bit more compatible with you. It certainly sounds like you're going out of your way to make her feel welcome there. I mean, the monthly check-ins are a very nice idea, and as you said, you've been making efforts to make sure that the house feels decoratively more like hers. Really, you might have to bite the bullet at the end of the day and just say, hey, look, I was chatting to such and they said all these things, so let's have a real conversation. It could just be that she doesn't like you. You're probably not doing anything wrong. Some people just take a dislike to other people. Hell, I don't know why it is, but it happens. I've done it. Other people have done it with me. It's just one of those weird things. But at the end of the day, if what she's saying is true, then, well, maybe she shouldn't be living there. 4. I'm female and 21. Live with 2 roommates. Female 21 and female 20. And technically a third roommate, but he doesn't actually stay here anymore due to a fight between him and the others. We met our freshman year of college, with the 2 girls being roommates the past 2 years. I have lived on my own in a single room until we got our own apartment in August 2025. In January, we went to Florida for a week to celebrate one of their 21st birthdays. We'll call her Stella. We went with her mom, her sister, and her sister's boyfriend. We drove to Florida from Ohio, taking the highway, which I am absolutely terrified of. Despite this, I took 2 shifts of driving since I figured I wouldn't drive in Florida since it was not my car. The other girls each took 1 shift of driving there and back. While we were in Florida, I ran out of my antidepressants and began going through bad withdrawals. I felt terrible physically and mentally, and felt bad making them take time out of their trip to go with me to the pharmacy to try and get my prescription filled. I had a hell of a time battling with insurance to get my prescription filled, as they don't normally cover it anyway. The withdrawals made me dizzy and irritable, and so I tried keeping to myself to not ruin the trip for anyone else. Along with this, I'm not close with Stella's family. Our other roommate, Aubrey, stayed with Stella's family over the summer while she worked nearby. They are all very close and get along well together. Stella's younger sister does not like me due to a joke I made the first time I met her. I said, "You weren't there, but," and told a story of something that had happened beforehand. It made the trip very uncomfortable for me and left me feeling very ostracized. During the trip, I could tell Stella was upset. Well, that sounds like a her problem. She would return to her room early each night and hardly speak to me during the days. I felt like she was in a bad mood, so I didn't pry, as she had never been one to talk about her feelings. She had been waiting to hear back about a job she interviewed for, and I figured she had received an email saying that they were not hiring her. She had never actually told me about the position, but Aubrey had told me. From the day we arrived in Florida to the last few weeks, I felt them ignoring me. Any attempts to talk to them were shut down. I'd ask them throughout the week if we could go see a movie or out for drinks or dinner, and they would either outright ignore me or say maybe and then never actually go. Whenever I sat out in the living room, they would go to their rooms and only come out for food, not speaking to me besides a "hi." Every week we normally have movie night, but they started skipping these with various excuses. Stella began spending more and more time at her boyfriend's, leaving Aubrey and I to take care of her 2 cats. Fast forward a few months. It's the weekend leading up to St. Patty's Day. We're all in college, so it's to be expected we'd go out for the night. After many hours spent at the bars, we decided to hit one last place, quite drunk. I barely remember it, but I do remember asking why they had been treating me so poorly. I can still clearly see Stella's face as she says, "You're mean." She said I was mean to her while we were in Florida. I apologized, and she told me, "It doesn't matter, you still did it." I began to cry. They decided not to go to the bar, and we walked about 30 minutes back to the apartment. The entire time I was crying, apologizing, don't apologize to them, and trying to understand where they came from. But they just ignored me, and didn't acknowledge anything I said. The next morning I hid in my room, only leaving to go to work, eat dinner, and then I went to bed. The next day was the same. That night, when I was trying to sleep, Aubrey asked if we could talk about it. She apologized for not checking on me and ignoring me the walk home. Stella only apologized for bringing it up while they were drunk in public. I asked her for examples of how I was mean, and she said I nag her to watch movies. i.e., why can't you just sit down and pay attention? And that I said ew when she called her boyfriend while we were in Florida. I apologized, but when she said I nag her, I was like, oh, like when you yell at me to not leave my dishes in the sink, even though you do every day? Or to turn the dishwasher on every night if I'm the last to go to sleep, even though the few times I've ran the dishwasher you yelled at me for being too empty. She had nothing to say to that. Those were things she has yelled at me about before. She also said I complained about driving in Florida. I explained to her the multiple reasons I had for being high-strung and rude during our trip, and apologized for my behavior. We agreed to both try to be better roommates, but honestly I'm so mad at her right now. She treated me so poorly for something I did over 2 months ago, because she's a bitch. Throughout the year thus far, I had considered dropping out, as I felt so lonely and unwanted in my own apartment. And my roommates were my only friends, but now I'm not quite sure. Despite our conversation, she has made no move to be any nicer towards me. I've tried to hold back any sarcastic remarks as I've learned she takes them personally, even though she does the same. I'm so tired of having to tiptoe around her. Then stop! But we've all re-signed our lease, and we'll be living here until I graduate in May 2026. Right, well, the cold hard facts here are these two are not your friends. They never have been. They might have been polite at first, but eventually the mask always drops. What you need to do is look for friends outside of this group. Once you have those, things should be a little easier for you, and stop treating these people as if they're your friends. They're your roommates. Be civil. Don't even talk to them unless you have to. Don't engage in activities with them. Certainly don't do a movie night or anything like that with them. You live there. You don't need to be friends with them. Quite frankly, you can do way better than those two. 5. I don't know if they have OCD or not, and if they do, am I in the wrong? I have lived with mildly similar behavior of someone with borderline PD, but no OCD that I know of, around a decade ago. There was this one time I didn't reply to her message and went to go watch videos on my phone because I didn't feel like replying to her. I think she asked if I wanted to go somewhere. She proceeded to find me and berate me and cry. This was a theme of hers. She would find something inconvenient that I have done and put me down for it, but screaming and raised voice. I can't remember examples because it was around a decade ago. This situation really messed up my regulation when it comes to being yelled at or belittled or passive-aggressive behavior, silent treatment. Not to mention, I had a psychologically abusive mom, so all of this I experienced before, just not the consistent yelling. Going to now, I'm 28, I have this roommate, 26, who was bad to our other roommate, 35, who eventually moved out on her own accord. The 26-year-old said they wouldn't care if the 35-year-old ended up homeless, and we never actually had a conversation about them, as I would have let them stay if she'd asked. But she was a weird roommate that needed extra social work involvement and was a little dirty but confined it to her room, mostly. A lot of the issues surrounding them appeared kind of like a stretch sometimes, kind of over-exaggerated. It was mostly about cleanliness, and the younger would not like that the older left her dishes in the sink for like 4 hours. Yeah, you gotta let them soak for a bit, for crying out loud. Passive-aggressive behavior towards her, double standards towards her. I can do this, but you can't do that, and I'll hate you for it. Moving her furniture without asking, complete disregard for her emotions. But the younger has a lot of standards, so as long as you respect her standards, everything's okay. Coming to now, we've talked about an over-the-sink dish rack, and she said she didn't want one, and we dropped it. But never agreed that we weren't getting one. When the other roommate moved out, I brought it up again, because I love them. I usually only hand-wash dishes rather than using the dishwasher. When I asked her why she didn't want one, she said it's because the dishes may fall off of it. She never had that happen before, and neither have I. I said we can just try it, and just not overstack it, and if it doesn't work out, I'll get rid of it. She said no. I'm telling you we're not getting one, but in an aggressive way, raising her voice at that point, visibly upset. She mentioned that I won't like how she'll treat me if dishes fall off of it. Second incident, our front doorknob has a latch. We usually use the latch. I like the locking doorknob as I don't have to turn around to lock it before I leave. This incident only started because we always left the door unlocked when the other roommate was present, but now we consistently lock the door. I gave her the keys that the other roommate had, which was an original, and my key was an original too that works for the knob. I also gave her a back door key in case the knob doesn't work, as it has not worked in the past. Since my key works, the other original should too. I told her to put it on her keys. This one day I hear a bang from the door and I look at my phone and she's calling me with several missed calls. I usually have my phone muted when I'm studying, and she says to come unlock the door. I said I gave you the keys, and she said she didn't have them. I went to unlock the door, and presented her passive-aggressive anger, slamming her bags around, huffing, puffing, avoiding eye contact, and storming off. I brought it up to her hours later when she came to me in a cheery mood, and she said she had thought I was ignoring her messages. and that she thought we agreed we weren't using the knob. We did not. I just sent her a voice memo for the keys, and she responded, "What's up with you and the doorknob?" And I didn't respond. Anyways, I asked her about the keys I gave her, and she basically said that she did have them on her. I said, "How are we going to know if it's the key or the doorknob?" And she said she's not walking to the back to get into the house. I let her know that we don't need to use the doorknob, and I assured her emotions. I did, however, say that how she reacted was a bit much, and how she acts affects and triggers me. It does cause me to have physiological reactions. She did, granted, tell me to not tell her how to feel, that she didn't yell at me or call me names, and also said that her behavior affects everyone, with a small smile, and left my room. I found out like 2 days ago it's the key. Small behaviors are showing me that her tantrums can be OCD related. None of this is OCD related. She's only diagnosed depression and anxiety. She's also exhibiting double standards with me now, and pettiness. I want to talk to her about it, as we did have a good relationship. But if she responded like that to my emotions already, should I even bother? It's like walking on eggshells. Mind you, she's coming off her antidepressants, and her job dysregulates her specific days, but she treated our old roommate like this before while on medication. She's more overt with her feelings to me than with our old roommate, as we are friends. It really doesn't sound like that's the situation. And she always compares me to her sister. She's very comfortable with me, so I just pushed her away, as I'm guessing it's her comfortability that results in her treating me like this. Am I in the wrong? Suggestions? Well, the suggestion here is ride the lease out until you're able to move, then move out without her. You're not friends, you're not family, there's no reason to maintain that relationship. Are you in the wrong? Well, you don't have to hang out with her if you don't want to, you don't have to answer texts if you don't want to. Some of the issues here seem a little insignificant. The dish rack thing, let it go, it's not important. A few of the things you mentioned seem to be just from a lack of clear communication, but when there is clear communication, neither one of you is listening to the other, so it kind of doesn't matter. You're just not compatible. I hope the lease is up soon, and if it's not, that you can tolerate each other until it is. Best of luck to each of you. Hey everybody, Hellfreezer here, and thank you very much for listening to Bad Roommates, episode 66. And thank you very much to everyone who allowed me to use their stories in this video. Before you go, please hit the like button and subscribe if you'd be so good. And if you'd like to support the channel, you can do that on my Patreon page, which is linked in the description, as is a link to my merchandise store on Teespring. Okay, no more bits and bobs today, so let's move on to Hellfreezer's question of the day. And today's question is, I'm not sure if I've asked this one recently, but those of you who like dish racks and things over the sink or maybe on the side of the board, isn't it just easier to just dry them and put them away? That way they don't get cluttered and you don't forget about them and gather, and then you have to rinse them off again because they've got water spots on them. It just feels like it would be easier to me. Let me know what you think in a comment below. And before we go, let's take a look at the answer of the day from a previous video. And we're going to take this answer of the day from Revenge's Ice Cream 309, because the last Bad Roommates video hasn't gone up, and the one before that just went up at the time of recording. And oh yeah, I think this was, what do you call the outsidey parts of the bread? I've always called it the outsider because it's on the outside, and it's also the best part of the bread. I will fight you. Let's see. Today's answer comes from Kerry Emberley Hamby. I've always heard it referred to as the heel. It's the best slice. That's because you're very sensible. Although if the loaf comes out crooked, the heel might end up being much smaller than the rest of the slices, especially if the loaf is cut with a multi-blade bread slicer instead of a manual bread knife. Thank you very much for your answer, Kerry Hamberley. And with that, I'm going to head off for now. So until next time, thank you very much for listening, and take very good care of yourselves.